Hey, what's going on, guys? Nick Unsworth here, and I am fired up because what you're about to see is a show from one of our very own Firestarter elites. What the heck is a Firestarter elite? Well, it's someone that has the vision, the dream to be a big-time baller, entrepreneur. It's someone that made the decision and decided to coach with me at a very high level. And what that means, it's $3,000 a month. We work together very closely. We partner with them on a product. And their expectation is that I'm going to help them grow an extra $100,000 of revenue. So what's very cool is you're about to see an episode from Andy Zitzman, aka AZ. He's one of our Firestarter elites. This guy is hungry, he's committed, and you're going to see this guy just start his trend, and it's like the hockey stick. This guy is growing like crazy. And what I love about him and I love about this session is that he's got a wild background. He literally was like the wolf on Wall Street, but with a big heart. So he battled addiction. He came and overcame all kinds of crazy obstacles. And here's a guy that has a heart of gold and that all he wants to do is to help people. And he's got a very similar mission than to what I have with Life on Fire. He wants to help people, inspire them, motivate you, and to help you get to the next level. So he's a business coach, and he is now a coach with us with Life on Fire. This guy is so fired up to help you get to that next level, and I want you to focus, get plugged in, and really hear the message that he has here for you today, because you're going to love it. Enjoy.
Hey, what's going on? Nick Unsworth here, and I'm a kick-ass business coach, and I'm on an absolute mission to help you find your purpose in life, to help you love what you do for work every single day, to help you be the rock star that you are meant to be, to make more money than you ever thought was possible, and to have more time freedom so you can actually enjoy the life that you're living. I'm here to help you set your life on fire.
You know, I wasn't always a champion, and what I'm going to talk to you guys today about is unleashing the champion inside. So, Dave, you know, thanks for the talk earlier and setting us up. I mean, talking about tapping in, and then really, once you do tap in, when you tap into this, to unleash it, right? And to unleash it on a daily basis. And, you know, I know what it's like to live here and to live out there. And what I mean by that is all the material things and all the things that are out there, that I wanted and I thought would make me happy, and I achieved all them. And I know what it's like to have strategies and skills, and Brian's going to talk to us, I'm sure, about some really good ones and all those things. But I also know that anyone that has skills and strategies that actually makes it, and when I mean make it, my new definition of make it is actually feels fulfilled inside and happy and love every day. That's not coming from here. That's coming from here. I want you to picture a guy at 21 years old, moves to New York. He's wearing the suit, in the corporate world. I was the type of guy, because of my energy and passion, I was really kind of the same guy that you kind of see today from an energy passion perspective. So people wanted to help me because I had a lot of energy, when you meet like a young 20-year-old or something and you're just like, wow, that person's got something. I want to help them. So they wanted to help me. And so what happened though is I got too much too quick, and I was like, dude, I got my blue BMW. I'm freaking living off of this unbelievable place off the Hudson River, and making, at that time I was making about $200 to $250 or so. And where I grew up, if you made 100,000, you made it. That was it. The sky was the limit. And I did that at 21. And what I realized is that I kept making all these things, outside of me as the reasons why I was living, and what I was living for. And it didn't matter. I mean, if I would have got to 2 million or 6 million or 10 million, I would have been miserable, because that's what I defined, as my value, as my life. And so ultimately, what happened was I became a workaholic, and workaholic, at a certain point, when you start to realize in your heart, your heart starts talking, you realize that, this isn't working for me anymore. But for whatever reason, instead of listening to it and doing something about it, because again, I was living here, I wasn't able to tap into here and get the message to myself that I had to do something different. So I just kept working harder and working harder. And that's what a workaholic does, works through the problems, works through, it just escapes. Eventually, I decided to start choosing drugs and alcohol to escape. And I lost myself. And I was that guy, just showing up at work and kicking butt. But then something started to happen in my mind. I was like, I'm not happy. This isn't what I want. I'm not fulfilled. Yada, yada, yada. It kept going on. And at 23, I had my first overdose. But at 33 was when I actually finally got help. So it was a 10-year period of just complete professional success. And I kid you not, like if you worked with me, you would have never known what was going on. I was a hard-working drug addict. I mean, I worked really freaking hard at it, and I swear, because it's not easy to be a drug addict. If you want to be a drug addict and have a job, it's freaking hard. It's really hard, especially when you're working for a $20 billion company, touching about 200 people a week, leading a team and getting to that point. It's hard, okay? And people ask me about The Wolf on Wall Street, and if you guys seen that movie, and it was a mini version of that. I wasn't making millions, but I was making hundreds of thousands, and I was blowing it in more ways than one, if you know what I mean. And anyways, what happened was that same guy that had this unbelievable job, this unbelievable life, all the things that you can imagine in life. One day, and I want you to picture, a guy. He's in his family room. He's got that view, so you can imagine the Hudson, and actually at this time it was Boston, so I was overlooking the Boston Harbor at this point, and had a luxury condo, but the blinds are closed, you can't see out, and imagine a guy that's just in his boxers, sweating, dripping sweat coming down, looking really pathetic, looks like he hasn't slept in 3 days because he's been up for 3 days. Cocaine is spread across the table, what's left of it, and what he couldn't, get his nose to get up it. And there's a bottle of vodka, and it's pretty much empty, kind of spilled out on the floor. Phone's ringing, off the hook, nonstop. Just keeps ringing. And this person is just sweating and just a complete mess. Really just has no idea what's going on around. Does, but doesn't. And is just sitting there. And imagine just shaking. That feeling, if you've ever, had a fit, but imagine just shaking and shaking and shaking and shaking. And ultimately something happens. Just in the midst of all this, a calm, serene, peaceful moment just hits this man. And he knows he has two options. That's the guy that, unfortunately for me, that's the guy I became, And so it's so hard, just 4.5 years ago, looking back now and saying that was who I was. Because I was that guy, and I was the guy in the suit, driving the BMW, making hundreds of thousands of dollars, living in a fabulous place. I was both of those people. Right? And I was a guy that was living from here and living out there, and I wasn't living out here, and living from here. And at that moment, I can't explain it. I don't know why it happened. People ask me, why'd you get sober? What happened? How'd you do it? I was ready. It just finally hit me, okay? It just finally hit me, and it said, and something, I call it God. You can call it whatever you want, I believe, I'm not religious, but I believe in God, and I believe in something greater myself, and I believe that, there's something greater working for all of us. And at that moment, for whatever reason, that power decided to hit me, and it hit me hard right here, and said, you know what? It's time to wake up, Andy. Ain't getting any better. You're either gonna die, or you're gonna change. And so I stepped into, and this is where I get into unleash the champion inside. But I'm going to make you wait for about 15 minutes before I tell you that. No, I'm just kidding. So that's the defining moment I had. It was nothing amazing. It was just this unbelievable moment in the midst of it all where just a peaceful, some type of peaceful connection to something greater than myself happened. And I can't explain it. And thank God, and thank me. Actually, I will tap myself in the back for that one, because that was a good decision I finally made, to actually just be willing, just to be open and willing for something different to happen. and to do something different. And that was my first step to unleashing the champion inside of me. And I didn't know it at the time, and I didn't know what was going on or what was doing. But what it looked like was I was sitting there and I basically prayed for the first time, and I just said, God, I don't care. Take it all away. I am miserable inside. This is not living. And I don't care. I mean, I was at that point where I just didn't care. It could all be taken away. I was so miserable, that I just didn't care anymore. I didn't care what would happen to me other than just feeling different inside. I had it all. I mean, so what was the point of getting more of that? I knew that wasn't working. And I was completely addicted to drugs, and I couldn't get off of them on my own. So I'll spare you the details of what happened over the next 4.5 years, but what happened was, in general, is I became open and willing to ask for some help. And that's, so talking about open and willing to ask for help, I mean, where does that apply? So Dave talked about some things today about being able to expand. And so open and willing for me was a very severe thing. It was like I had to do it because I was going to die, right? And I know that you're probably looking at me right now and going, yeah, okay, well, he's on drugs, and if he didn't stop doing it, he was going to die. And if you stop doing something, or if you get closed-minded, or if you think, is Mr. Dumas in the room? Do you think John Lee Dumas is sitting here today going, hey, I reached the pinnacle, I'm not going to keep learning and growing? Probably not. If he does, he's at risk, right? Michael O'Neill just doubled his downloads. Is he going to be closed-minded now and think he's got it all figured out? Probably not. No, not if he wants to get to 200. So I thought I had it all figured out. And I closed my mind, I closed my heart, I closed everything off until finally I reopened that. And so, it's really important that we stay connected to just staying open and willing. And that was the number one thing that I did. And the second thing I did, and Nick, you brought it up on your Facebook message the other day, was I surrendered. And fully surrendered. And what I mean by that is I let go, So first comes willingness, right? Willingness has to come first, because without willingness, nothing else can happen from there. Once you're willing, yes, action has to take place and things have to take place. But within that action, or in addition and surrounding that action, if you can surround that with letting go of the result, surrendering fully, whether it's to yourself, whether it's to God, whether it's to a higher power, whether just understanding that there's something greater than ourselves working in our favor, and that whether it works out or it doesn't, it's really not up to us. What's up to us is our effort, right? And I struggle with that. I'm a control freak. When someone told me, you got to let go and you got to, live and let God, they say, and I'm like, well, yeah, whatever. I'm like, dude, I'm pretty good at doing shit. You know what I'm saying? But someone walked up to me and said, listen, it's not about whether or not you do it. I'm like, because I thought letting go meant that I just was in this world of euphoria and everything's great and it will just all work out. And it's like, no, it's basically you're responsible for the efforts, and the guy upstairs is responsible for the rest. That's it, right? John Wooden never talked about winning. He's the all-time winningest coach. Never talked about winning. He talked about fundamentals and effort. And no coincidence, he won more times than not. So it's a very similar type of thing. So willingness was number one for me. Number two was surrender. And number three, number three is something that Dave talks about, and it takes you to a magical land, and it's something that if it's just one thing you could do every day, do this. Hopefully you can do a little bit of all this every day, but if there's one thing that you can do every day, do this, and it's be grateful. The magic for what, hey, you guys are all ambitious. Some of you are at some amazing places already in terms of where you want to be results-wise in your business. Many of you, like myself, are just getting started, in certain areas of that and having success in other areas. And then some of you are kind of on this journey, a very ambitious journey where you're midway there, and it's kind of, time to step it up and take it to that next level, right? Well, that's great. But if we spend all our time there and we forget what we have in the process, when you get there, chances are you're really not going to appreciate it as much as you could have, But to know that and to do that takes practice, and it takes time, it takes dedication, it takes willingness, It takes being able to let go so that ultimately you can just be grateful for what you have, right? And when I connected to just being grateful for what I have, man, it's crazy. But when I sit down in the morning and I just, list 5 things that I'm grateful for, whether it's verbally, close my eyes and think of them, or if I just write them down and I look at them, and that's a powerful thing too. But spend some quiet time with you in gratitude. Dave's saying it. I think if you go and talk to any spiritual leader out there, mindset leader, anything that has something to do that taps into the soul, the heart, the energy, the source, whatever, they'll tell you gratitude is so important because it can't be explained. Just if you do not do a gratitude list today, I will challenge you, to do it for the next 30 days. You're doing your 30 and 30 YouTube challenge, add gratitude to it and sit with it for 5 minutes each day, gratitude. I mean, think about your son. You talked about how great it is. You can wake up and play that video game with him every morning. I mean, what an amazing thing, It's like, and not just doing it, but actually thinking about just how amazing that is that you get to do that with your son, Not many people get to spend time with their sons. Some sons don't have fathers. Some fathers do have sons. It's a pretty amazing thing. So with gratitude, what I started to also realize is that, for me, I loved everything except myself. I mean, I was a lover all through my whole, I wasn't like this complete nut job loser drug addict. I mean, I was a highly successful winner, achiever. I mean, everyone around me wanted my life. I'm an identical twin brother. I have a sister. I have a little brother. I was the guy they came to. My friends, I was the guy they came to. I put myself on that pedestal that I had it all figured out, and I did when it came to business. But man, I sucked at life, sucked at myself, sucked at relationships. I was engaged at the time. I had to call off my wedding. I mean, there's a lot of other shit. Nick said there's a lot of other stories, and I could share them another time, but they're really not that important because the reality is that the thing that is important was that when I finally realized that I wasn't connected with my heart and that I didn't really love me, that until I figured out how to do that and to bring intention to that every day, none of this really matters otherwise. I mean, none of it freaking matters, And so it leads me to the 4th point, which is love. And I like to add to that, love and live. Love and live from the heart. And it sounds cheesy. Some of you may have seen me walk outside today, and I stood up on the thing over there, and I was playing some music, and I was just looking out over these mountains, and I was hugging myself, and I was loving myself. And and I'm not, I'm a pretty type A alpha male kind of guy, but I do this. But I do this because this shit has saved my life. Okay? And I know that when I'm speaking in front of you guys today, that in a year from now, when I'm speaking in front of 20,000 people like Dave Austin, when I'm an elite, level coach like Mr. Nick Unsworth, and I'm changing lives at the level that, I really want to do because I've been given a second chance and I believe this is my mission and my goal in life. I know that unless I'm loving myself and doing these things, I'm not really going to be true to them. I'm not going to really fully appreciate everything that comes into my life. And that none of it will really matter. Anyone that I feel threatened by, I know is going to be a teacher to me, a learner, or whatever. And so I looked into him to Nick, and I learned something. I was like, wow, this guy's got his shit together. I really love his energy, and he speaks to me. But I didn't do anything right then and there. And then all of a sudden, I saw your webinar come December, and I was about to let go of all my dreams, everything I was working towards, because I was still in that developmental phase, of building the business. And I can't explain it, but I got Nick's webinar. I signed up for it. And I don't know, does anyone here know that song, Oh Night, Christmas Carol? Beautiful song. I don't know why, but I just got off the interview where basically I got offered that $350,000 position, and that's the position I left a year and a half prior. And I'll tell you, I don't know what happened, but that song started playing, and it got me out of my head and back into my heart, and I just started crying. And I was just like, no way. I am not going back. I called my girlfriend. I was so excited to tell her that although I just got this place off the beach and we got high rent and she's moving from Texas to move in with me, and I just told her that she's going to have all this great stuff and we're getting married and all this great stuff. You know, I said, and oh, by the way, I'm going to, you know, likely invest quite a bit of money. I didn't know it was going to be $3,000 a month at the time, but I knew that I was probably signing up for something that night that was going to change my life. And so, but it wasn't because of Nick, you know, and it wasn't because of me, and it wasn't really, it was, what it was this thing, you know, it was this thing inside of me, you know, that was just starting to beat a little bit faster, starting to be a little bit more honest with myself. And, you know, I was willing to listen to it. I was willing to take that risk. And, you know, and I was willing to finally just take a leap and live from the heart, continue living from the heart. Because I leaped many times over those last few years. I mean, I didn't tell you the story about quitting my job and what that was like and everything. Because believe it or not, through my entire addiction, I was able to keep this job. I couldn't believe it. And they let me go to rehab and all this stuff. But to quit it after 12 years when it was the only thing in my life was a tough thing to do as well. And I had to really leverage this process. But, you know, so it's love and live from the heart. And, you know, and those are kind of the formula, if you will, I say, to unleashing the champion inside, okay? It's really, you know, there's one other that's really, really important, and I'm not going to get into it today because Nick does it every Friday. I think we're going to do it, what'd you say, tonight? And I think we all know it. But like gratitude, there's another word that starts with G that can just ultimately totally get us outside of ourselves and into that magical place in our heart where we know we are worthy, where we know we can make a difference and where we matter, you know, and that's give, right? We know if we give more than we get, man, it's really, really hard to, you know, to have a life if you're giving and people are helping, right? So, but don't just give to others, right? And with the word love too, don't just love others. You got to give to yourself first and give to others second. And what I mean by that, you know, you might hear the acronym FLY, first love yourself. But going back to love, you know, you got to first love yourself and you got to give to yourself first. But if you forget to get, you know, the second piece of giving to others, you know, it's almost as if we're just in service then to ourselves, you know, and not to something greater. So if you can surrender to something greater, give, right, and make an impact in something greater, it makes for a great life and it makes for a true champion. You know, and it allows you to unleash that champion inside because, you know, I know in my own recovery when I'm giving to other people, and I just do that pro bono and just for fun because that's what I do. I mean, so many people gave so freely to me. It's like, I got a text this morning. Who was I sharing it with? Was it you, Christine, or someone else? I got a text this morning from my buddy, and it just said, I went to my first AA meeting last night, and this guy's about to lose his job. He's already lost his wife. He's already actually lost his career. He's about to lose his second career that he has because he lost his license. And he got a text that just said, you know, I went to my first AA meeting. And, you know, and I've been giving him a lot lately. But, you know, the stuff I gave to him really gave so much more back to me, you know. Because the more we give, the more we really are given to ourselves. So it just kind of comes full circle, you know, so give. And I'll repeat them. So be willing, the words willing, surrender, gratitude, love, give. And the last one is unleash. The formula is the first 5 or 6. I can't remember how many there are now. But the last one is unleash. Bring intention every day. So what Dave talked about, right? He didn't become number 1 in the world, you know, or the best, you know, tennis player by just doing it every now and then. And I'd be lying to you to say that I do this every day at the same level, with the same intensity, with the same result and all that. But what I have done is since that day that I was sitting in my family room, you know, just finally being open and willing and then surrendering and getting help, that what happened was slowly but surely I developed this process, and it was suggested to me from a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And so I just kind of made it my own and brought it to my own, and I developed my own way to unleash the champion inside of me on a regular basis. And you know, and I used to think it was really cheesy. I'll be honest, some of the stuff that I do, it's really cheesy. You know, you guys want to talk about fear? Go to Andy Zitzman, YouTube. I got a little video where I explain an audio product I created about friending your fear. And I have an acronym. It's called Face, Embrace, Act, Repeat. Face, embrace, act, repeat. You know, so face it, then embrace it. You know, you embrace all the negative things that go on with fear. Well, for every minute you spend in negativity on what, you know, isn't going to happen in the future, this false projection of something real, right? Spend some time in the positive, okay? As much time in the positive. And then act, because you can act through fear until, you know, all day. I did that for 10 years, and I just used drugs to, you know, escape it. But I acted through fear, you know, for a long, long time by just doing. And unfortunately, I was doing drugs. It's not a really good winning formula, but, you know, but at the end of the day, it's how I acted through my fear. And then repeat. So I just, you know, I suggest choosing something better than drugs with your actions, and I think all of you guys do already. But the reason why I share that with you, you know, is just because I like that you got to make sure that in this process of unleashing the champion inside, that it's not just about, you know, this logical stuff of like, oh yeah, I got to surrender and I got to do this. It's really just getting out of the head and into the heart, and to do that on a regular basis and to try to do that every day. Because what happens is, and I can't explain it, that if you try some of the stuff I just talked about, right, and you make it your own and come up with a way to do it, you know, that you will, over time, develop this process that has levels to it, you know, and Dave talks about up-leveling. It will up-level, and it will up-level and up-level to the point where you will become reliant on it. You will rely on this process so much, and you'll rely on doing some of these things so much that when you don't, you'll know you sold yourself out, and you feel like, oh man, like, you know, I didn't do that today. So I'll just leave you with a few, you know, tips or tricks and things that I do, which is in the morning I wake up and I go to a quiet place, and before anything happens, I just close my eyes and I pray, and I just say, God, thank you for giving my soul back to me today. You know, that starts my day with humility. It reminds me that I'm not really responsible, that you know, that I'm being started, you know, that my day has been started by someone else. And I'm just lucky to be here, right? And I say, thanks for keeping me sober today. And I do a little prayer, and I do, you know, I go into some prayers, and there's some really good ones. There's a Serenity Prayer, you know, God, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I have a variety of other prayers, but what I do is I spend time in prayer. And I used to laugh at myself. When I first started this, I would just talk to myself. If you don't believe in God, so that's okay. That's okay, right? That's okay. No recuerdo, to love me in the morning. Scarface went. Anyways, Scarface and God, yeah. If you don't believe in God, that's okay. Talk to yourself. That's what I did. I talked to myself for about 3 weeks until something happened inside of me, and every morning when I was talking to myself, I started crying, and I was like, okay, yeah, there's something greater, damn it. You know, you got me, you tricked me, and then what happened was, from that moment on, though, in talking to myself, God, my spirit, and something greater than me, it started to keep me. And there's a great line out there called, you know, that says, you know, keep your faith, and your faith will keep you. And to me, what that means is that when I keep my faith, you know, and when I practice being faithful, and when I practice, you know, surrendering and letting go, and really just connecting with something greater than myself, that I become so reliant upon it that when I forget, it's what keeps me, right? Because you're going to forget. We're never going to be perfect. And it keeps me. So I have this little prayer and all that, and then I do a little visualization exercise, like Dave was saying. And what I visualize sometimes are just things that I really want to see happen, you know? Like this morning I visualized being up here, you know, and just really remembering that this isn't about me. You know, I'm not up here to like feel good. I mean, because I'm nervous, you know, I'm nervous, and I'm like, oh gosh, what if I don't, you know, mess up and all this stuff. And, you know, I'll give you a business card that says I'm a coach and a speaker, you know, and I am a speaker, but I'm a very new speaker. I haven't, you know, spoken a lot, and you know, and so I, you know, but I'm a speaker, and I say that, and I visualize it, and, you know, and what it does, it just helps me get outside of my head again and into my heart, and realize that the only thing I'm supposed to do today, really, is just inspire and motivate, hopefully, right? So So anyways, I after I get through kind of this prayer and I do this little visualization and everything, sometimes I have a variety of different things throughout the day that I can do, but in finishing the day, I usually try to journal or read or do something, that will really close up the day and do an inventory on that day. And so maybe for you, if you want to take this little challenge of 30 days of trying this on and seeing if it starts to keep you, at the end of the day, just ask yourself how you did, with unleashing the champion within. Just ask yourself that question at the end of the day. Did I unleash my champion today in all my power? Okay? And it will just help you stay present with it, right? So 2 things you could do to lock it in, and they're fail-safe measures, if you will, about how you could lock this thing into your everyday life is start your day by just asking, how can I unleash, not when or why or what, but how can I unleash my champion inside today? And close your day with asking the question, how did I do unleashing my champion today? And I promise you this, that if you start to try some of these things, and if the ones that I suggest don't work, but if you pay attention to what does work for you to get you out of here and into here, and you bring intention, right? You bring intention to that and practice that daily, you are gonna love your life at a level that you've never loved it before. You're gonna love yourself. Talk about a life on fire. Like, my life's already on fire. I mean, really, I hope I go do some amazing shit. But at the end of the day, my worst day today is so much better, than my best day 4.5 years ago. I do this more often than not. And because of it, I have a pretty amazing day and I feel like a champion inside more often than not. So yeah. Thanks. So.
I'm here to help you set your life on fire.